Come here, and you'll feel it, that end of the line sense of freedom. Say yes to Freetown. Say yes to freedom.
Peace, alafia, shalom, assalamu alaikum. I am your host, The Last Griot. To know thyself is to know your history, and in this series we'll be breaking down the history of the West African country Sierra Leone. Did you know that archaeological finds show that Sierra Leone has been inhabited continuously for at least 2,500 years, populated successively by societies who migrated from other parts of Western and Central Africa? Its earliest documentation is noted as an outpost or outer territory of the Great Mali Empire, and the following centuries would slowly see Sierra Leone become a place of refuge for those escaping Islamic conversion, enslavement, and warfare from larger nations. There are 18 different ethnic groups in Sierra Leone today. The indigenous tribes of Sierra Leone would be the Limba, Bolom, and Loko. The other 14 would migrate into the region in later periods. Those who came from Mali and Guinea would become the Timni, Mende, Madingo, Kono, Yalunka, Karunko, Suzu, and Gizi. Sierra Leone would also receive the Karu, Karim, Galina, Gola, and Vai from Liberia. The Creole people would be a result of liberated slaves from the Americas being resettled in Sierra Leone by the British. They have one of the most interesting stories because the Creole today are the closest African relatives of Black Americans due to their ancestors having to leave behind parents, siblings, uncles, and aunties behind in America, Canada, and the Caribbean. The Creoles today still bear the same English surnames as their family who remained in America. For example, if you're from the Williams family in South Carolina, you may have a great-grandfather who migrated to Sierra Leone and continued another lineage of the Williams family there. The Limba are believed to be the earliest indigenous people of Sierra Leone. They speak a distinctive language that is unrelated to other languages in Sierra Leone. They are primarily found in the northern province, particularly in Bambali district, Koinadugu, Cambia, and Tonkolili, but a small number can still be found in Guinea. During Sierra Leone's colonial era, thousands of Limbas migrated to the capital city of Freetown and its western area. During the 16th, 17th, and 18th century, many Limba people were shipped to North America as slaves. The Limba are mainly rice farmers, traders, and hunters who lived in the savanna woodland region in the northern province of Sierra Leone. They predominate in 16 out of 190 rural chiefdoms in the country, and their community affairs are dominated by the local paramount chiefs. Major Limba towns include Bafodia, the Warawara Yagala chiefdom, Kamakwi, Pinkolo, Madina, Fadugu, Kamasasa, Mabonto, and Kamasigi. The Bolom, Limba, and Loko were already original inhabitants of Sierra Leone. Tribes like the Shebro, Timni, and Mende would also become known as early inhabitants, but the formation of these tribes and the regions they inhabit would be carved out by the Mani people after they invaded and conquered most of the country in the 16th century. To fully understand the story of the Bolom, Shebro, Loko, Timni, and Mende, we must first understand the story of the Mani people. There are many origin theories of the Mani, including their origin stemming from a female leader called Masariko, who was expelled from the Mali Empire after offending the Mansa because she thought his leadership was weak, and left with a large army of Mani warriors who helped her conquer, subjugate, and absorb the native tribes of the new lands, and forced their prisoners of war to join their army. Historically and culturally, though, a more precise location of origin would be Kabu. The Mani were warlords and rulers of the Mandinka elite from the declining Mali Empire, but their homeland was a vassal state of Mali at the time called Kabu. Kabu was formed by a war general called Touramagan Traoré in French West Africa, or Touramagan Tarawali in English-speaking West Africa. Touramagan was the general and nephew of the founder of the Mali Empire, Sanjata Keita, through Sanjata's elder sister, Nana Tribon. In the 1230s, Touramagan defeated a great Banuk king called Kikokor and formed Gabu as a western province of Mali, and Touramagan would name himself the first Mansaba of the vassal state. Gabu was based in modern-day Guinea-Bissau, but their territory would also expand into the Senegambia as well. Once Touramagan defeated the Banuk king, he would marry a Jola woman who was a known powerful sorceress. His descendants would take on the surnames Sane and Mane, which were both of Jola origin as well. The ruling class was composed of warrior elites made rich by slaves captured in war. These ruling nobles were from two distinctive sets of clans, Koring and Nyanko. The Korings were from Sanyang and Sonko clans, whilst the Nyankos were Mane and Sane. The Korings ruled the non-royal provinces, while only those descended from Nyanko bloodlines on both sides would be elected as Mansa. When we look at the timeline of Mali, Gabou, and the Mani invasion of Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Liberia, it becomes easier to tie in the knots. After the middle of the 14th century, Mali saw a steep decline due to the raids by the Mosi in the south and the growth of the new Songhai Empire to the north, as well as succession disputes. The Mali Empire would continue declining in the late 1400s, especially under the rule of Mansa Mahmud Keita II, who came to rule in 1481. His reign was described as a period where Mali would lose much of its territory. Mansa Mahmud was likely the Mansa who the Mani leader Masariko offended, because weak leadership seems to be synonymous with his reign, and it was said that Masariko's conquest towards Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia had begun in the early 1500s, not too long after Mahmud would come into power, and Gabou would become independent from Mali in the year 1537. After Masariko's expulsion, her and the Mani would establish themselves in the Bela region of Musadugu in modern-day Guinea. From Guinea, they would travel further south until reaching Cape Mount, Liberia, where the border is shared with southeastern Sierra Leone. Upon entering these regions, the Mani would encounter the indigenous Bulum people at Cape Mount in 1845. The Bulum were indigenous to Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea. At Cape Mount, the Mani and Bulum would fight a major battle against each other, where Masariko's son was killed and she died soon after. The rest of her army would continue west and conquer the southern regions of Sierra Leone. From the south, they would make their way towards the northern region of the country, absorbing and assimilating those they defeated along the way. Once the Mani entered the southern region of Sierra Leone, many Bulum settlements were destroyed during these invasions. This enabled the Mandinka to fully take over the south and force the Bulum to give them their allegiance. After the Mani conquered this region, they would begin intermixing with the Bulum people, and this fusion of the Mani and the Bulum would form the Mende tribe, who inhabit the same region today. The name Mende may derive from the names of their conquerors Mani, or a spin-off to the ancestry of their conquerors, which is Mande, the umbrella term for the Mande-speaking people of West Africa. Or perhaps, when the Europeans made contact with them and asked who they were, the reply that they received was Mande, but the British pronunciation likely came out as Mandai, hence the pronunciation and spelling today. Corruption and mispronunciation of African names and words by European explorers and invaders was common, and whatever they documented on the African people would be what was passed down to us who are the descendants, including the improper way of saying some of our ancestral names. Another example of this can be displayed through the formation of the Shebro people. After conquering the Bulum people of the south and forming the Mende, the next region that the Mani would conquer would be the Bulum territory centered around what is today known as Shebro Island. The head of this conquest was a Mani leader named Sherabola. A corruption of this name would lead to him being called Shebro, and from the corruption of this Mani leader's name, the Shebro tribe was formed. From there, the Timni would be conquered next, but prior to the Mani invasion of Sierra Leone, the Timni would be the first migrant tribe to arrive in the country after leaving the Futa Jalon region of Guinea in the late 1400s. The Timni would push the Limba northeast and the Bulum southward. It is highly possible that before the arrival of the Mani, the Timni may have possibly gone by a different name. It is important to note that unlike other modern Mande groups, the Timni are related to the Landuma, Nalu, and Baga people of Guinea and Guinea-Bissau. These groups have been described as pre-Mandinkas because they settled in the region before the arrival of the Mande people. I find it interesting that the Sonaninke people also predate the Mandinka as well, yet there is still record of this pre-existence. But there is no record of the Timni until they made their presence in Sierra Leone, which heavily indicates that prior to them settling there, they likely were identifying under a different name or originally a subgroup of the Baga people. More evidence of this is that the Timni language is included within the Baga language family. The Timni government, titles of power, and culture is heavily influenced from the Mande and Kru-speaking Mani, so it is not unlikely that after subjugation, the conquered group took on a new name, culture, and form of governance, just as the Bullum did in the south when they became the Mende and Shebro tribes. These are other spelling variations of Timni that are listed below. The most consistent factor is the Mani, Mene, and Mini suffix at the end of each variation. Despite the various spelling variations, Timni only has two ways of pronouncing it, which is Timni or Timani, and this still maintains the Mani or Mini suffix, showing further indication that their name is derived from the Mani warriors who conquered them. When Masariko and the Mani started their conquest, her lieutenants were referred to as Sumbas and consisted of Kuru-speaking people of the Koya and Kia clans from Liberia, who were likely absorbed into the army after the Mani conquered regions in Liberia. As the Mani generals were conquering the southern region of Sierra Leone, the Lieutenant Sumbas may have led the northern conquest against the Timni, because the Timni would go on to form the Kingdom of Koya, fully indicating that the Sumbas from the Koya clan played a major role in conquering them. The first three kings of Koya were documented by the name Farima, which wasn't their actual name but a title. Farima is a Mandinka term that translates to brave man, commander, or military leader in a Mandinka army. This is full evidence that after the Koya clan conquered the Timni, the Mani generals would be who took kingship. So now the newly formed Mende, Shebro, and Timni would become fully assimilated and trained to be a part of the Mani army. The Timni would conquer the Loko and intermix with them heavily, becoming the ruling class amongst them. The only tribe that was able to bring a halt to the Mani conquest in the north were the Susu. Overall, the Mani were able to conquer and absorb the Bullum and then create hybrid groups that would form the Mende, Shebro, Timni, and Loko. Salon man them always like for say, Uda indigenous, Uda not so indigenous. Well, I come for tell you now, if you not to Limba, you yourself, you're not so indigenous, you're not foreign man. Basically what I said was, Sierra Leoneans often enter into petty tribalistic debates over who's indigenous to the land and who's not. But in reality, if you're not Limba, then you're not fully indigenous to the land either. The Bullum would have been another indigenous group, but they've been fully absorbed and assimilated into the current tribes existing today. The Mende, Shebro, and Loko would be the next closest thing, but they only have partial indigenous ancestry from the Bullum, while the other half comes from the Mandinka invaders. Then the Timni are just foreigners who intermix with foreigners. They are a mixture of the Baga people of Guinea, Mandinka from the Mani clan, Kuru people from the Koya and Kia clan, and a small percentage of Bullum sprinkled in there. The rest of the tribes in Sierra Leone are migrants from Mali, Guinea, and Liberia who settled later on. So I think we all able for say, Salon not a real place. We all not foreign man. We come Salon, we fet the Bullum, we fet the Limba, and we tell them say, you go accept we. If you don't accept we not gonna have peace in this country. So this indigenous debate, not a thing where we get for faith, but today, all man na Salon man. You hear me? All man na Salon man. So now that we've broken down the Mani invasion, we're now able to go into other tribes as well too that migrated from other regions. The Susu and Yalunka are traders who originally migrated from Guinea to Sierra Leone. Both groups are primarily found in the far north in Cambia and Koinadugu district, close to the border with Guinea. The Susu and Yalunka kingdom was established in the early 5th to 7th century before the Mali Empire, which was extended from Mali, Senegal, Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and the northern part of Sierra Leone. They are among the original inhabitants of the Fouta Djallon region in Guinea. The Susu and Yalunka are descendants of the greater Mande people, and today they are virtually all Muslim. The Yalunka, also spelled as Jalonke, are Mande people who have lived in the Djallon mountainous regions in Sierra Leone, Mali, Senegal, Guinea-Bissau, and Guinea-Conakry, West Africa, over 520 years ago. The name Yalunka literally means inhabitants of Djallon. Most of those who settled in Sierra Leone were pushed out by the Fula. The Susu are descendants of their Manding ancestors who lived in the mountainous Mali-Guinea border. They are said to have originally been a section of the Soninke people that migrated out of Ouagadougou and were initially a clan of blacksmiths who displayed their clear intentions to object converting to Islam. In the 12th century, when the kingdom of Ouagadougou was in decline, they migrated south and established the capital city of Susu in the mountainous region of Kolikoro. In Kolikoro, the Yalunka sub-tribe of the Susu would form during the tyrannical reign of Susumaru Kante. After Sanjata Keita defeated Kante, the Susus were ruled by the 13th century Mali Empire. In the 15th century, they migrated west to the Fouta Djallon Plateau of Guinea as the Mali Empire disintegrated, but may have had earlier migrations as well. The Kono people are descendants of Mali-Guinean migrants who were said to have moved to Sierra Leone and settled in what is now the Kono district in the mid-16th century. Kono history claims that Kono were once a powerful people in Mali and Guinea. The Kono migrated to Sierra Leone as peaceful hunters. The tribe was split during the partitioning of Africa by European colonists, and part of the tribe still exists in the neighboring Guinea. Kono comes from the Mande word Makono, which means wait until we come back. So the Kono are actually just Mandinka people who were cut off from the others after Sierra Leone became separate from Guinea. Attacks from the related Mende people forced the Kono to seek refuge in the Karonko territory to the north, where they were allowed to farm the land. The Mende eventually moved further south, and the Kono returned to their land in the east. The Kono today practice Christianity, Islam, and traditional religion. They are primarily miners and farmers, and they make up 5.2% of the country's total population. Their homeland is the Kono district in eastern Sierra Leone. The Gisi are the fourth largest ethnic group in Guinea, making up 6.2% of the population. Gisi people are found in Liberia and Sierra Leone. The Gisi tradition considers that before the 17th century they inhabited the upper Niger region. Supposedly, they lived south of the Fouta Djallon until the Alunka expelled them. After 1600, they migrated westward, expelling the Limbas in their march, but were under constant threat from the Karonkos. This threat is likely what caused their migration into Sierra Leone. The Gisi are well known for making baskets and weaving on vertical looms. In past times, they were also famous for their iron-working skills, as the country and its neighbors possessed rich deposits of iron. Kisi smiths produced the famous Kisi penny, which was a form of currency in the Mande-speaking world in the form of iron. The Karonko people occupy a large section in the mountainous regions of northeastern Sierra Leone and southern Guinea. Karonko speak a language similar to the Manding languages, and their language can be understood by their neighbors and close allies, the Mandinka and the Susu. The Karonko moved into Sierra Leone from Mali after some leadership struggles in the empire. It is highly likely that the Karonko were originally a subgroup of the Mandingo, and like the Mani, they may have decided to leave Mali altogether due to the weak leadership of Mansa Mahmud during the declining status of the empire. But during the height of Mali, the Karonkos were